my heart goes out and it says, "Fuck 'em and feed 'em beans." I can care less about his sadness. I can care less about...
When Sean Diddy Combs heard the judge say 50 months in federal prison, the courtroom froze. Cameras flashed, reporters scribbled, his family cried, and the man who once stood at the very top of the music world suddenly looked small. But for those who've lived the other side of the system, the sentence was just the beginning. Because prison doesn't just take your freedom, it takes your control, your power, and your name. Michael Franzese knows that better than anyone. Once a high-ranking member of the Colombo crime family, Franzese lived in the underworld of power and money before serving years behind bars. And when he looks at Diddy, he doesn't see a superstar. He sees a man about to step into a world that doesn't care who he is.
Obviously, he's disappointed, although he really shouldn't be. I think, a 4-year sentence here with already credit for the year or so that he has in, I think he did very well with respect to all of the drama and all of the circumstance around this trial. There was a lot of bad stuff out there, and I'm not saying, I'm not passing judgment on that, but it just looked really bad, and he could have gotten up to 10 years or 11 years. So I think the judge, took everything into consideration. I think his family today made a very good plea for him, and I think he did very well. That's my opinion.
So what in your experience, like your own experience and other, inmates that you've seen go through it and then show back up at the, the cell block, how do they take this? Do they bury their head in the pillow and cry, or do they keep their head held high and just pack up their stuff and wait for their assigned new prison? Like, tell me everything.
Well, everybody's different. I'm sure he went back was somewhat disappointed, so he's probably, dwelling on that. Hey, it could have been differently. Maybe I should have gotten out. Maybe he's a little bit upset, a little bit angry. I get it. All those emotions come into play.
Franzese says Diddy's real test starts the moment the cell door closes. Out here, he was the boss. In there, he's inmate number, just another face in the count. In those higher institutions, Franzese said, no one's looking to shank you right away. But when people know you can't do anything for them, that's when you have a problem. To understand what Diddy's walking into, you have to understand what he's already lost. In court, his lawyers begged for leniency. They reminded the judge of his legacy, his philanthropy, his family, and somehow, against a storm of bad headlines and damning evidence, they managed to limit the damage. Prosecutors wanted 11 years. The judge gave him just over 4. It could have been worse, much worse. But even that victory comes with a curse. Because time behind bars stretches differently. Each minute feels like an hour. Each night feels endless. Franzese says the shock hits hardest in the first days. You go from mansions to metal bunks, from private jets to plastic trays. There's no entourage, no yes men, no applause, just silence. You stare at concrete walls and wonder how you got here. You think about the people you hurt, or the people who hurt you, and eventually, the reality sets in, this is your life now. Where he goes next could define everything. Judges can recommend a facility, but the Bureau of Prisons makes the final call. Because of Diddy's fame, his influence, and the attention surrounding his case, he won't walk into a minimum security camp. Those are for low-risk offenders. The businessmen, the tax cheats, the quiet ones. Diddy's name is too loud. His presence would be a security risk, a target, a distraction.
But right now, he's got to get ready. He'll spend a couple of weeks there until they designate him to a new facility. And he'll be a lot better off in prison than he is in the federal jail. At least there you can move around and you got some freedom on the yard and things like that. My thought is he'll collect himself, get himself together. There are ways for him to improve himself. They have the Bureau of Prisons now has a drug program. And if you're allowed to get into that drug program, you can knock as much as 18 months off your sentence. Now, I don't know if he'll qualify, if they'll allow him to go in, but he'll probably start to think about, okay, what can I do to reduce my time now? That's what everybody thinks when you get in there. Is there any way we can better ourselves? He's thinking about what facility they're going to send him to. I'm sure he spoke to his lawyers and he asked his lawyers to put in a facility that's close to his home, close to his family, a low or medium level. I don't think he'll get into a camp.
Oh, can you though? Does your request actually count? I mean, I thought the feds just put you where it works for them. I didn't think you get a say in it.
Well, here's the thing. The judge, you could ask the judge to recommend. The Bureau of Prisons doesn't have to go along with the judge's recommendation, but it does help a little bit. They do try to sometimes satisfy the judge's request. You can put in a request, and sometimes they'll honor it, sometimes they won't.
That means medium security, fences, barbed wire, controlled movement. men serving serious time. Franzese explains that it isn't chaos, but it's not comfort either. In a camp, he said, you can play tennis, walk the grounds, almost forget you're in prison. In medium, it's different. It's structure. It's survival. Inside, Diddy's fame becomes both his shield and his weakness. Inmates will line up to talk to him. Some will want to be his friend, hoping he'll remember them when they get out. Others will resent him, believing his money bought his freedom. Franzese lived it. He says when he first arrived, everyone wanted something. Business plans, connections, help. You're a money guy, he said. To them, you're a golden ticket. And in a place where most men have nothing, a golden ticket can be dangerous. Jealousy breeds fast. Ego gets you hurt. If Diddy walks in thinking he's still the boss, the yard will remind him quickly that he isn't. There is, however, one advantage he might chase: time reduction. The Bureau of Prisons runs a program called RDAP, the Residential Drug Abuse Program, and completing it can cut up to a year from a sentence. Diddy's legal team has already asked that he be sent to FCY Fort Dix in New Jersey, a low-security facility known for its RDAP program and easier family visits. On paper, it looks like hope, but behind those fences, Fort Dix has its own dark stories: contraband, gang tensions, short-staffed guards. Experts like prison consultant Christopher Zukas warn that it's unpredictable, that a celebrity like Diddy could find himself in more danger there than anywhere else.
Is the camp the lowest security and therefore more paddle and tennis and all the other things and what they call, like, you know, Club Fed or Camp Cupcake?
Yeah, they moved me to a camp by accident at one point, and you know, there's no fences or anything like that, and I wasn't there for too long because they realized they made a mistake and put me back in the medium security. But they tell you when you get there, listen, there's no fences. If you want to leave, you can leave, but when we catch you, we're going to add another 5 years onto your sentence. And while I was in that camp for 2 months, each month somebody ran away. I mean, they always try to do that. But yeah, he's thinking of that. Yeah, he's thinking of that. But you know, a medium security is not that bad.
Let me quickly go back though. Go back to that piece about he's high profile, so he won't get a camp. Why wouldn't he? I thought in a camp nobody's going to shank him because again, they want out.
You know, the overriding factor there, I believe, is he's a guy with a lot of money. And I'll tell you, this happened to me when I went in there because of the profile I had, because of the way they wrote me up. You know, I had everybody and their brother inmate trying to do a deal with me when I got out, you know, a business deal. They need money. You know, because of the fact that he's a money guy, I think he's going to have more friends than he will enemies. And in a medium security, normally nobody's looking to shank you. When you get into the higher institutions, when people are doing, you know, a ton of time and there's no way you can benefit them, then you got a little more problem. But in a medium security, I don't think he'll have an issue at all. I really don't. He can be too much of a benefit to inmates that are always looking for something. And he could be a golden ticket for some people, at least in their mind.
And danger may come from more than just gangs. Inside those walls live men who still worship Tupac and Biggie, two legends whose names will forever be tied to Diddy's. For decades, whispers have accused him of knowing more than he ever admitted. True or not, those whispers will follow him into the yard. Franzese says rumors in prison spread faster than light. If people think you had something to do with Pac or Big, he warns, that's danger. Pure danger. Add to that the upcoming trial of Kefe D, the man accused in Tupac's murder, whose defense claims Diddy ordered the hit. The very mention of that theory could make Diddy a marked man in certain circles. And in prison, some men don't need proof, only belief. Outside, the hits keep coming. Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, has become one of his loudest critics. He says the man who once called himself a king is finally getting what he deserves. God can make you, and God can break you, Deal said. I got no sympathy for him. For years, Deal claimed Diddy tried to have him killed, and he sees this downfall as karma catching up. His words burn across the internet, stoking the fire against Diddy, painting him as a man who built an empire on betrayal. And when Diddy stood in that courtroom, breaking down in tears, begging for mercy, few people believed the performance. His team even played an 11-minute video, a montage of charity work, family moments, and fame, trying to remind the judge who he was. But the reaction inside the courtroom was icy. Prosecutors called it a PR stunt. Analysts said it landed like a lead balloon. One described it perfectly. It looked like a campaign ad, not an apology.
My heart goes out and it says, them and feed them beans. I can care less about his sadness. I can care less about him being in pain. I can care less about what he has to be faced with in court or in jail now. I don't have no remorseful feelings for him, bro. You understand? This is somebody that at one time I would have given my own life for. And to know this nigga was trying to get people to take my life because I was trying to teach them to be right by people and tell them to be right by people. I have no remorse for this dude, bro. To see him like that, I know there is a God. And you can feel all the way you want to feel about me. You can say whatever you want to say about me. But karma is a mother. And if it ever gets back to you when you have done somebody wrong, not just me, I'm not saying me, I'm saying when you have done people wrong, you have done goals of people wrong, to see him on his knees begging like that, I would say something, but the LGBT community will be after me. So you'll never hear me say it, so I don't want to get in trouble with it. But bruh, I'm happier than a faggot in a barrel of dicks to see him like that.
They pointed out that Diddy already had public appearances lined up the next week, calling his remorse fake. Arrogance disguised as humility. Assistant U.S. Attorney Christy Slavich told the judge that Diddy's respect for the law was nothing but lip service. Even the judge, while lenient, seemed unconvinced. The 50-month sentence was shorter than what prosecutors wanted, but long enough to make a point. Fame can't save you forever. Now, behind those bars, Diddy will face something he's never faced before. A world without control. Every move timed, every word monitored, every privilege earned. Breakfast at dawn, count after count. No cell phones, no luxury, no special treatment. The silence of a prison cell is deafening when you've spent a lifetime surrounded by noise. Franzese says that silence changes a man. It forces honesty. It forces reflection. You find out who you really are when the lights go out and no one's calling your name. For Diddy, that will be the real sentence. The time alone with his thoughts, his regrets, and his reputation. He might find redemption, or he might find resentment. Some men use prison to rebuild themselves. Others use it to plot their comeback. But redemption requires sincerity, and sincerity is what many believe he's never truly shown. Prosecutors said his apologies were hollow. Victims called them manipulative. Legal experts criticized his defense for focusing more on Diddy's legacy than the people he hurt. If you want mercy, one said, you have to show empathy. He didn't. And yet, Diddy still has supporters who believe this time could change him, that the man who once ruled hip-hop might finally understand accountability. Maybe he'll take the RDAP program. Maybe he'll write. Maybe he'll try to make peace with the world he left behind. But even if he does, the world might not forgive him. The industry has already begun to move on. The fans are divided. And those who once stood beside him now speak his name with disgust or pity. The Bureau of Prisons will soon decide where he serves. If it's Fort Dix, he'll be closer to home, but that won't make it safe. If it's a tougher medium facility, he'll be one face among thousands. Either way, the same truth applies. The walls don't care who you are. For a man who built an empire on control, on image, on power, this is the ultimate reversal. No more red carpets, no private jets, no assistants to carry his burdens, just steel doors and silence. The kind of silence that echoes. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the universe or karma or God, whatever you believe in, finally put him somewhere he can't run from himself. Because when the lights dim and the noise fades and the applause stops, what's left? For Diddy, it's not the fame, not the fortune, not the empire. It's the man staring back from the other side of the mirror, the one stripped of everything but truth. Michael Franzese said it best, the walls don't care who you are. And soon, Sean Diddy Combs will learn exactly what that means. Drop your thoughts below, keep it respectful, and if you love a deep dive into celebrity drama, hit that like, tap subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos.